What's up? I'm finding out if Reiki works for sickness. One of my passengers gave me a sore throat yesterday. Or else somebody beamed it at me with a direct energy weapon or some other dumb bullshit. Not that I care how I got it. I really don't. I was also experimenting with the concept that I was experimenting with going in between the pain. It's not really pain, but this isn't a bad sore throat, so it's sort of a bad example to try and do this with, but I was experimenting with the idea of going in between, because pain has to have this window. It has to have the time window. You need to have that trail of memory for the pain to be real. And that's overstating the fact, because you need that trail for anything to be real whatsoever. But it goes for pain as well. So I was experimenting with that. Experimenting with letting my own mind not overblow the possibilities of what this thing could turn into. Because I also had somebody in here a couple days ago that said she had strep, and I didn't, not giving my mind opportunity to latch onto this, that, and the other thing as far as possibilities. So I was essentially mitigating, and seems to be working all right. I woke up and it's not a horrible raging fire in my throat. It's just a normal, kind of like it was yesterday. And I'm more along the track of knowing that every single thing that pops up in my experience is it's a piece of the puzzle. It's not something to complain about or worry about. Literally every thought that comes in, every person that sends me a message, everything is part of the whole drama playing itself out. So to get hung up on any one part is sort of incorrect. I would say that in defense of this realm being a very highly subjective, responsive to the individual's input, as if we're talking game theory or VR immersion possibilities, things like that. Given my past year and a half, and what I've seen and experienced, and the way things have played out, would definitely lend credence to the idea that it's a sim or it's a VR type of thing. Because back when I had the mindset that this is I don't even know how you say these things. When you have the mindset that the external world / universe is a set sort of reality and you are within it, sort of catering to its whims and every other person's whims. Of course, when you have that idea, if it were the second case, which is that the thing's actually responding to you, then it's still gonna work for that first model because it's still responding to you, because it knows you have this idea that the thing is such and so it presents that with you, or it presents you with that. So I just find it fascinating that it truly does appear to be the thing that responds to belief systems, and it does very much appear to be a reality creating. We are creators, and everybody's creators. Everybody is a creator. Even so-called NPCs with their visions of heaven and hell. If the thing is, you have to remember, if this existence truly is infinite, then why if it really is infinite, number one, there's just no point in talking, because just everything flies everywhere. So, but I enjoy talking, so you know, I don't mind the infinite amount of paradoxes that pop up with every single word that issue forth from my mouth, because I'm used to it. But if it really is infinite, then everybody's going to get what their belief system is geared around. So the ones thinking they're going to heaven are going to go to heaven. The ones thinking they're going to go to hell, they're going to go to hell. The ones thinking that all dimensions are simultaneously existing in a Russian nesting doll fashion and we just can't see the other layers, well, that's how it's going to be for them. And eventually they'll peel back the layers and they'll ascend up, or they'll descend down, or ascend sideways, locomote sideways. Those that believe in a personal deity are probably going to meet the old man in the sky and have a conversation with him, and those that believe they're going to disappear into nothingness are going to disappear into nothingness. And I'm not sure that necessarily all these theories are going to last for, you know, necessarily a huge amount of time, but if nothing else, then the people will get kind of what they generally expect. Because if the world doesn't behave within the window of your expectations, at least vaguely, then that's what causes mind fractures. So the world almost has to do that. It almost has to react, excuse me, somewhat according to your expectations. Otherwise, you can't handle it. Go crazy. And it won't even let you go crazy unless that's somewhat within your expectations. Everyone who goes crazy, I'm sure, spent a decent amount of time contemplating what it would be like to live in the loony bin, because they were already heading down that path, you know? And a lot of them probably were like, man, I can't wait till I get in there, because the whole world is obviously insane, and I need a place to be safe from these guys. So I've been raking my neck. I've been self-raking my neck, and I would say it's working so far. It's been mitigated, but at the same time, I don't experience pain the same way I used to. I don't experience sickness the same way I used to. I don't really get sick anymore, so this, as far as the construct is concerned, this is a bit of an aberration, and I'm just like sending out the message that you know, you got, no, this is not exactly the optimal path. I personally, I'm surfing the really barely discernible thoughts, feelings, emotions, and using that to give rise to the lived experience, rather than focus on what you were given at birth, not at birth, but in school to focus on, which is the opposite of those, which is what are you gonna be when you grow up? What kind of retirement plan would you like? Who are you gonna marry? It's like you're given. It's the most amazing thing. It really is, because the internal experience of being a human, right? The things that you are given to care about, they could be done and gone, just absolutely taken care of 1,000 billion times over within the span of maybe 1 or 2 minutes. Okay? And then, but you're given these sorts of things to spend all your time on, which basically you finished with it in 1 minute, and then you come back to the guys who are giving you these sort of life ambitions, goals, whatever, and you're like, okay, I'm done. And they're like, well, it's only been a minute. And you're like, yeah. What? Give me something else. And they're like, no, you're supposed to do that for 80 years. And it's like, no. You know, it's something like that. It has something to do with the rich inner life of existing, and how that is not in mainstream acknowledged. There are not really very many books. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing on the channel, is because every single thing that I do is in direct acknowledgement of this inner life, because the external life has turned itself into such a mundacity of a shit show that's not worth looking at, even with your eyeballs. It's almost like better to close your eyes and just like put your hands out and start walking, because you'll have a much more interesting time that way than trying to take your mind and taking the 3 things that the external has given you to fritter your time away on. And you're like, no, I got done with that in 1 minute. Give me something else. And it won't give you something else. It literally won't. It will keep hammering the same thing. Get a job, go to school, get a wife, get babies. And those 3 or 4 items, protect your country, be nationalistic. Like, maybe it's 7 or 10 items, but it's not very many. Democrat, Republican. It's the most opposite of diverse abundance of an infinite way, infinite different ways of every single moment. Like, you see, it's just goes and goes and goes, and it's infinitely abundant, and it's never acknowledged in the external. And if you saw more people sort of living this inner abundance out as they're, you know, walking outside, what would they be doing? Can you imagine how the world would transform in a second if people got on this path of like inner exploration? And it pairs with the outer. So it's not just like people realize, oh, there's a whole universe inside this moment. The whole thing is here. All of it is inside this one little itty bitty moment, and that nobody ever talks about. And then you pair it with the external, so the inner changes and then the outer changes, and then the whole thing is changed. And again, no time is ever needed for any of this stuff. It's just immediate. And you all know what that transformation would look like. I mean, you have basic ideas. Just take any scene where everyone's running on train tracks, and just all of a sudden these people realize, whoa, why? They wouldn't necessarily have to say anything. They would just stop. They're doing this like deer in the headlight look, like glued into their cell phone. They would just like maybe throw the thing in the ocean like I did the one time where I had this weird sleep premonition that the technology was doing something. I don't know exactly how it would look like, but it would look it would look like the system stopping. Because there's nothing good or fun about it. And it's gonna stop anyways. It's gonna overheat. It can't continue the way it is because it's literally it is the unconscious. And we, the conscious ones, are having to witness this sort of grossness that happens on a daily basis. And as far as myself, I'm not okay with it. And all of my energy is going towards bringing life back into life. Like, come on, guys, like, wake up, everybody. And I don't mean it in the wake up, like, wake up to all the evil horrors that are controlling you. No, I'm not talking about that. You guys have to understand that it's a battle at the same time that it's, and I know you understand to an extent, but it's a battle at the same time. Every emotion, every thought form that comes through has the possibility of manifesting. That's why you have to be careful about what you allow into your head, and like, you don't want to just be an open orifice for all information to flow through, because there's shit information out there. And you end up being constituted by the sorts of informational flow that has come through up until this current moment. And then if you add in time travel and forward and backward malleability of the time field, and you know, it gets crazy really fast. But as well, at the same time, you don't have to take on that idea. You don't have to take on the idea that, oh, our future selves are coming back and manipulating this. And you know, you could have the idea that, well, transhumanism came in and it fully took root, and millions of years down the road, the beings forgot what it felt like to have compassion for each other, and they were just essentially nearly full robots. And at that point, a billion years down the road, one of them said, "This sucks," right? And then they came all the way back here and found out where transhumanism started, and they tried to pluck it out. They tried to be the Unabomber and somehow stop technology that way. Okay, like that. Those sorts of vast, encompassing ideas are also seeds. Okay, they're also seeds that, when you entertain them, the possibility of that coming into the reality in some way has been implemented by virtue of that seed being in your mind. So you have to be able to know how to guard yourself, especially if you're a creator, because if you take the perspective of the other, that's, you know, the control faction that's trying to so-called create the reality for us. If there was such a thing, then yes, and they knew that they couldn't create, but there are certain beings that can, then what do you think they're going to do? They're going to try and manipulate the beings into creating something. But then that whole idea is stupid, of course, because if there isn't a conscious individual inside the other wanting to find a creator to leech power from, then they couldn't do it in the first place. So the whole idea of like an unconscious other trying to grab the creator's, you know, living ability to create and then usurp it for their own uses, it's a stupid idea, is what I'm saying. It's very stupid. It's all us. The conscious ones are the only ones ever doing anything. It's just that sometimes we ignore things. So if you all could beam some happiness at my sore throat, help me with this process, I would appreciate it. And again, hope everybody's doing well. Buckle your seatbelts, like always. Don't worry about the event. There's lots of nonsense going on out there. I would say meditate. I never really recommend anything but meditation. Also connect with other like minds and explore.